testimony. Kind of comes in three parts. I am one of the weird kids that you had in school. I did not fit in. I talked to myself or the ladybugs that hung out in the windowsill during class. I talked way too fast. I could not spell. I was not very social. I preferred the make-believe stories I ran in my head as opposed to twirling on the bars and chatting with the girls. The boys playing dodgeball during recess would throw the ball at me, and I would return it with a vengeance, but I didn't stay to play. If it was raining really hard, I would get books from the library and take them home and read and read and read. I was a good reader, but a terrible student. As adolescence hit, I started to become more aware of the other kids that didn't fit. This awareness was probably prompted by most of us misfits for experimenting with drugs or alcohol. There were a lot of us, probably 20% of my class of 76. I can't say we were really friends, but among all of us, we had a bond. We took care of each other. We were the great, unwashed, unloved, unfitting. We were as lepers to be avoided. Of that group, none of those boys made it to high school. Maybe 10% of the girls didn't make it either. Some of the reasons were obvious to us even in adolescence. You can see child abuse, and you can see pregnancy. Now I know more. You can become a social leper very quickly at any time in your life. Your mental or physical health can fail. Your marriage ends. Your rent goes up. Your pay doesn't. You can no longer control your bad habit. Maybe your friends and family would love to help, but are limited. Maybe your friends and family disown you. I lost my job in 2014. My work was my life. That was my social life. That was my work life. It was everything. That's what I did. I was devastated and exhausted to the core. The first year, I tried to find work in my field and failed. I invested in an expensive boot camp training course in my field that guaranteed me a job, but I could not focus on the material, and I failed. The next 5 years, I lived as a hermit. I lived off of my retirement until it ran out. At that time, I narrowed my options down to ending myself or living in my car. Perhaps I could do both. I heard a junk removal that advertised they would donate any good junk to charity, and I had them empty my apartment. I kept my backpacking gear, minimal kitchen equipment, and some clothing, and I shoved it in my car. I hadn't driven in 5 years, and slowly, shakily drove to the worst, cheapest motel I could find down by the airport. Rough 5 days. On the sixth morning, I checked out and I drove to some place in Renton that had King County Housing in the title. Good old Google. It took me to a place that had a locked door, but it had a doorbell, and I rang it. A lady came out, and she could see I was in distress, and she brought me a bottle of water. She told me to go to the library for Wi-Fi and to go to a site called 211. The site, she said, would have all of the resources available. I talked to a lot of people on the phone that morning. And a safe parking site sounded like it was my best bet. I called the 3 sites that were not in Seattle and left a message at all 3. Karina was the only one that called me back, and she did it within 5 minutes. She said yes, there was room. I would later find out that at that time, in August, was the previous all-time record for the number of folks that were in this lot. We were parked side by side, elbow to elbow. But there was room for, oh wait, one more. I pulled into the lot, and I parked, and I sat on my bumper and just took everything in for 15 minutes. And somewhere in that 15 minutes, I quit shaking. When I came here, I had concerns that there would be an agenda, a push to repent and accept the Lord, mini sermons during meals. I kept waiting for it, guarding against it internally. I had my own little spiritual thing going. It never happened. Instead, I got seeds. I, of course, initially didn't recognize them for a long time. A big portion of my time in the lot was during COVID. I knew this was going to be bad and stressful time for everyone, but especially for us in the lot. I knew I had to keep busy. I had to keep my overthinking mind from focusing on stuff and myself and my issues. I spent a lot of time gardening. Some in the prayer garden, right here. From there, I got to listen to Kevin play the piano. He didn't practice just hymns. He played classical. He played show tunes. He played jazzy. Sometimes even come to the door and we would chat. What a gift. I also picked up a lot of trash. Our new hosts and our age-appropriate younger hosts that were still with us were doing double and triple overtime, prepping the building before we got in with the bleach, and it was just a lot of extra work that they were putting in. So I thought, one thing I could do for them was just take care of trash. I didn't think that would be an issue with anybody, so I just kind of became the garbage gal. So this thing happened one morning. I woke up and I opened my car door, and there, right beside my car, was a plate, and spaghetti was in it, and there was a fork sticking straight up. It was like right next, it was like I opened the door, and there it was. And so I made my way to the porta potty, do my morning thing, and came back to the car, get my garbage bag, and on the way I just see plates and spaghetti all over. So I've got my garbage bag, I start cleaning up. There's another gal on the other side of the lot, kind of hollering at each other. Yeah, there's more mess up here, when you're ready. I think Karina heard us, maybe not the gist of it, but the loudness of our voices. She was leaving. She was driving out of the lot. And she stops on me and rolls down the window and just says one word: race. Kind of cryptic. I only knew one definition of what that word meant, and I certainly am not a graceful person, so I explained to her, I said, we're not upset. We're just cleaning up the spaghetti. And then she let me know that we had got a new family with 5 kids. And I knew what that meant. And it explained everything. I kind of looked at it as funny, really a funny moment. Later, I had to look up what else grace meant. And then I studied it. It was another little seed, another gift. Anyway, so many seeds of love were being sown in this slot, sown for all our guests, by hosts, strangers in the street, other guests, by this congregation, by church staff. I am a weedy field. But the grace of Jesus and the saints that surround me help me pull my weeds. What a gift. And now Bethany is going to share her testimony.